Welcome back to another edition of the Smart Driving Cars podcast. Thank you once again for joining us. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alan Kornhauser. Hi, Alan.
Hey, good morning, Fred.
Good morning, and you're back in New Jersey.
Back in Jersey. Phew.
And with us once again, we're happy to welcome back Forbes senior staff writer, Cyrus Arvar. Hi, Cyrus.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, hi. And so nice to have you back with us. I guess we have a few things that trying to figure out what's going on, right?
Thank you for having me.
Well, the last time we spoke, just a couple of weeks ago, GM had hit the pause button on Cruise, its robo-taxi business, following the October 2nd crash in California, in which a pedestrian was hit by a human-driven car and then thrown under a Cruise vehicle. It initially stopped, but then pulled to the side of the road, dragging the pedestrian underneath. There were questions about how forthcoming the company was with reporters and investigators. And this week came the resignation of CEO Kyle Vogt. Cyrus, that came Sunday night.
It's been a lot of news over the last 48 hours, and here we are. It's Tuesday of Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, here we are. My head's spinning.
I know. So yes, as you say, Sunday evening, Kyle Vogt, one of the two company co-founders, resigned from the company on Monday morning. Just yesterday morning, Dan Kan, the other co-founder, also resigned. So now the two company co-founders are gone from Cruise. And then yesterday afternoon at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, Monday, November 20th, General Motors CEO Mary Barra and a number of other board members and executives at Cruise had an all-hands meeting where they did their best to try to reassure the staff at Cruise. And they tried to, they said that Mary Barra said that, this is an opportunity to start a rebuilding. She told the team, I want you to know that you have my support and GM's full support. A board member, John McNeil, talked about how difficult the mission is. People were talking about how much they believe in Cruise's mission. One thing that stood out to me a little bit also was that Mary Barra was noting that the company was not naming an interim CEO for the time being. So the company has two presidents and no CEO for the moment. So we'll see. But they didn't say they were shutting down. They didn't say they were bringing people over to GM. They didn't say that like they were giving up or anything. They're going to move ahead for now. But it's certainly a difficult situation.
And you had an opportunity to listen to that call, to the audio portion?
I was given I was leaked an audio recording of the meeting, yes.
And the tone of it, I mean, it wasn't a two-way thing, right, with the employees?
So to be clear, it was a video call that they had with the staff. The staff were not invited to ask questions of Mary Barra or any of the other executives or people that spoke. I don't think there was like a chat function or anything like that. It was pretty short. It was only about 30 minutes, and there were 3 or 4 people that spoke. And yeah, it was just meant to say like, okay, we're moving ahead. These are our new leaders, let's keep going. That was sort of the general tone. One thing that sort of surprised me, I have to say, was that, it was very almost kind of measured. I would say, like, it wasn't a kind of, locker room kind of rallying pep talk kind of tone. Like, that was not the vibe at all. It was much more kind of reserved and just saying, okay, we're going to, plow ahead and continue forward.
Obviously, they don't want to have mass departures.
Yeah, and I think that's probably given the, another thing that also happened last week, of course, was this question of rescinding the company's GM's buyback of the Cruise stock. So I don't know if viewers know, one of the ways that employees are compensated at Cruise, and this is somewhat common in Silicon Valley, is not only are you paid, of course, a cash wage, a cash salary, but also you receive, or in some cases have the option to buy stock at a discount in the company. So in this case, what Cruise does is they said, okay, and this is a program they instituted in 2022. They allowed people to, people were given stock in the company, as part of their total compensation. And then at various intervals, they had the option, if they wanted to sell it to General Motors at a specific price. That the company, they had an outside valuation that was determined. People, of course, could choose to hang on to the stock, believing that it would go up later. But they suspended that program, which frustrated a lot of people, feeling like that now they were holding onto a stock that had no buyer. It's not like they could sell it on the open market. So like that was very frustrating. And then they, pulled back from that decision a little bit. So it's been a little bit of a chaotic time over there, it seems.
So tell us a little bit more. They pulled back a little bit. They are buying some. They changed the price. What did they do? Because of course they did this after the crash, correct? And not before. And so, of course, you could expect that if you were a publicly traded company, the price would have somewhat tanked, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they basically halted the buyback on, this was just 4 days ago on the 16th, was when they announced that they were halting the buyback. And then they came back and they said, I believe that they said that they were going to do it for some employees. They were going to allow them, was my understanding. I didn't get all the details. Cruise is not always super responsive to my questions. But I think they understood that, and I don't fully know how these programs generally work, but I think in this case, my understanding was that when people were given these bundles of stock, if you will, they immediately had to owe taxes on it, which
Right.
is sort of offset by, if you're going to sell it relatively quickly, that can be offset by the value of the stock. So there was some concern that people were basically being given stock and then were being asked to pay taxes on it, and then now they had no market for it, which made it momentarily kind of worthless in a way. So I think that caused a bit of an uproar among some of the staff. So
More than worthless if you're paying taxes.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think Cruise is really, at a place where they're trying to they're really trying to figure out kind of how to get back on track. They named a new president, Mohammed El-Shanawi, who's the president and chief technology officer, who formerly was I think the head of engineering, vice president of engineering.
We know him, right?
Right.
Yep.
He has been on the podcast.
We've had him on a podcast. He's a very capable and competent individual, and and so that's good to hear. But just a little bit more on this. My goodness, it seems like when you do something like that, it means you're starting to fold the tent, doesn't it? Or again, I'm here in this bubble. I don't know anything about this stuff. So what can I'm just asking stupid questions here.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly, there was definitely, I think, I had heard from people inside the company, alumni of the company, who wondered if this was sort of, if they were going to announce the end of Cruise sort of as we know it, if this was going to be sort of an Argo situation, right? And people may be familiar with Argo, right, formerly the arm of Ford that shut down in 2022. And people wondered if this was going to be sort of that moment where they were going to maybe keep some portion of the Cruise staff, maybe integrate them somehow into GM and cut everybody else loose. That did not happen yesterday. So maybe that will happen in the future. We don't know. Right. If Bera is correct that GM is continuing to support the company, is presumably willing to spend billions of dollars on the company, then we will see. But the company is certainly in a very different place from where it was a year ago.
Are they operating vehicles outside of the U.S.?
I have seen that reported that they're operating vehicles, or if they're not operating them, that they have plans to operate vehicles in Japan, and I want to say in the United Arab Emirates as well.
Right. Yes. They certainly announced the United Emirates.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my understanding, is that they continue to do that. But and you guys may know better than I would, prior to these setbacks beginning in October, in San Francisco, my understanding is that their, US deployment, at its peak was in the, hundreds of cars in total, which I think is far more than they had operating in other countries.
Now, when he resigned, Kyle wrote, Cruise is still just getting started, and I believe it has a great future ahead. The status quo on our road sucks, but together we've proven there is something far better around the corner. Thanks for the great ride. And you have to wonder how that was taken by the people who worked with him.
Yeah, it's really I think it's hard because I think that my impression from speaking to people, like I said, inside the company, people who've been with the company but are no longer there, I think that there's a question of seeking kind of some people want, some accountability, right? Of course, he founded the company. He was brought back to the company after having been away from it for a little bit. And but at the end of the day, right, I could see a scenario where, he didn't use this phrase, but I sort of think of the old phrase, right? The buck stops with me, right? Like,
Yeah.
and if the company is, really struggling and, had its license pulled in its biggest market, and is, having trouble with California regulators in particular, I could see why, he wanted to go. Similarly, Dan Can, right, who stepped down yesterday, had a similar message to cruisers. He said that it has been his privilege to help technology that will create the world. He said, I am extremely proud of the team and experience we've created. Through ups and downs, we've created a service that served 10,000 rides a week and thousands of deliveries. I know Cruise will achieve that again under Mo's leadership. He has shown time and again that our team can achieve the impossible. Thank you, everyone, especially the PDRM team. I'll be rooting for you along the way as you get cars back on the road. So
Yeah. So I don't know them that well, but certainly, known them for probably the whole ride, and they're very straightforward, both of them, especially Kyle. And I was Sunday night. I was shocked. I was completely discombobulated. I like to say, because it's so ironic and such a shame. It's just such a shame because I sort of believe in the same mission they believe, that they are really doing something that's good for society, and they're really not out there, trying to, make a killing and monetarily and so on and so forth, and extremely responsible, in dealing with the safety issue. Maybe they didn't do it. I guess looking back, one would have to say they didn't do it as well as Waymo. And we've always, at least I've always applauded Waymo as really doing a great job on making sure that on the safety thing, and trying to do proper engagement and communications, and largely pretty open, in terms of both the good and the bad. And then to have I actually feel a little bit responsible for what happened to poor Kyle, because like 9 hours before that crash there, he zoomed into my class and was talking very candidly, very openly, very forthrightly, with my class. And I, of course, appreciated that like you can't believe. And then, and talking about the tough decision, how tough it is to make the decision to put a mobility system out there without any human direct supervision. I mean, as I think I probably said to him, you're out there betting the ranch that this thing is really going to work, because you really don't. The system has to work, and the toughest part of this whole business is the system has to work while you don't know what you don't know. And I'm sure we must have discussed that in the class, because certainly I discuss it with my class all the time, and I'm sure we did it with him. We made no recordings. I run my classes. I call them the Vegas rule. What's done and said in my class stays in my class. It's for the benefit of the people that are in my class. It's not to put out on this podcast or whatever, and so on. This is otherwise, what are we going to get? We're going to get press releases. No, thank you. Okay, we can read those.
I don't see how that makes you in any way responsible.
Well, I don't know. I just I feel it's ironic because in the discussing, the toughest thing about this is we don't know what we don't know, and I can't imagine anybody ever suggesting that, oh my goodness, the thing that's going to bring us down is some hit and run driver, catapulting an individual in front of us, that we, do absolutely everything, I suspect, probably as perfectly as we could do it to avoid causing any more damage. Then probably, and then moving over to the side of the road, which I don't know if I'm so happy I didn't have his job, because you want to get out of the way. We get blamed for getting stuck in concrete and whatever, stopping, and people say we're in the way and all that, so we'll move over to the side of the road. No, if any engineer that had any voice in the company would have said, my goodness, before we move, we must be able to check if there's a body under our car, they would have put a camera under there, or they would have found some elegant solution to do that. Now, maybe I'm just naive. I don't know what their whole sensor stack is and all their perception algorithms are, but I bet there's no line of code or there's no deep learning training session that's gone in there and said, "Yo, check under the wheels or check under the car." And
Alan,
of course now,
my thinking is that all of that, everything you're saying, is certainly 1,000% accurate.
No,
but did the real trouble spin out of control, more or less, with the controversy over whether or not they were forthcoming about it?
It could have, and who knows who made the decision or who knew what, when, and so on. And I'm sure we're going to find out, okay? Or at least when they find out and they know, and GM knows, that not that they should throw everybody under the bus. Forget the parallelism here, but that we'll see. But this was a tragic situation in which it's moving in real time. Is everybody in the whole organization going to make the absolute right decision, statement, whatever? And sure, one could. I just don't think that. I can't imagine that Kyle was or Dan were the ones that said that said, "Hey, we aren't going to show this." And of course, I don't know. Maybe I'm too naive, but boy, it discombobulated me. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But yeah, I think it is worth noting that, right, it took some time for, unfortunately, neither California public agencies, right, the DMV specifically, neither the DMV nor Cruise itself, are providing, clear explanations as to what happened, right? So the incident happened on October 2nd. There was a meeting between Cruise officials and California state officials on October 3rd to review kind of what happened. But it wasn't until October 24th, right, that the DMV suspended them, right? I have the letter here.
Yeah.
Reviewed, right? But my point is that DMV, right, believes, rightly or wrongly, they said that they didn't, right? I'm reading here. It said, right, the department only learned of the AV's subsequent movement via discussion with another government agency, which I asked them, and they meant NHTSA. So anyway, so, it's, I think part of it is this question of when that was revealed to regulators and state officials. I think that's a big part of it. And the state officials feel that Cruz was not, it seems that they feel that Cruz was not forthright with them. So I think that, yeah, but I hear what you're saying. And it's obviously, I think this is an industry-wide set of challenges, is to be able to figure out, right? It's often called the sort of, infinite long tail problem, right? There's infinite number of scenarios that these companies have to plan for as best as they can. And like you said, I can't imagine that many people anticipated that there would be somebody underneath the car.
Yeah.
But
So I think to me, there are at least two important lessons we learned here. One is you better look under the car. Okay, so if Waymo hasn't gone in there and put cameras or whatever, and all the others haven't gone in there and put and put in their code wherever the heck it's supposed to be, or trained the darn deep learning thing, whatever, to make sure there isn't. So that, because if this happens again, then whoever does it again, I mean, they need to be, whatever. And the second thing, which is the lesson that I've been preaching to my students, I think I preached it before this, is my goodness, the cover up is worse than a crime. Okay, if something happens, just be forthright about it. Okay, I mean, life is not perfect. Nobody's perfect. We can't be perfectly safe. I mean, if the view from San Francisco is to have this kind of mobility, is that it has to be perfectly safe, or even substantially safer than human driving, then San Francisco shouldn't get it, because it's not achievable. It's not achievable.
It's worth noting that Waymo's cars are still operational in San Francisco.
It is nice. It is nice. And I think San Francisco should take a look. And maybe, to me, the wrong message. I was going to ask you, what was Mary's message as to what they're trying to achieve? If the message of Cruz is really to solve the safety problem, then they should quit right now. Okay? Because they're not going to do it. Because to solve the safety problem, Mary can do it with her Cadillacs. Don't let them speed. Okay? Make sure the person's paying attention. Don't let it crash. Don't let people that are inebriated get in there and drive your Cadillacs. She could do it. She doesn't need Cruz to do that. Okay? Now, of course, nobody's going to buy her Cadillacs if she does that. All right? So the safety problem with humans is that that they misbehave. That's the problem. It's rare that I've had deer catapult in front of me and I've hit them. I think 7 of them, actually, believe it or not, and had no chance. Okay, but all the other crashes are, somebody's on their cell phone. Somebody's, who knows what, picking their nose, not behaving. And darn it, that's the real safety problem that GM could solve. Say, hey, we're not going to let people misbehave in our cars. But, then they won't exist. So I guess they can't do that. But the other thing is that what Cruz can offer is darn good mobility to San Franciscans at an enormously affordable price to change the lives of people and improve people's lives. This is a mobility system. This is something to help people get from A to B. It's nice that you can ride your bike. I could ride a bike and so on. Some people can't. Some people need. Some people don't want to. Some people can't afford it. Why isn't that the mission out there? Why isn't that the view in San Francisco? San Francisco, people getting around, the people that live here, able to get around and take advantage of all the things in San Francisco. That's what we should be providing mobility for. And unfortunately, if Mooney could do it, they would have done it. If Bart could do it, they would have done it. But what they can do is, because of the technology they have, they are extraordinarily limited. And so people end up not getting anywhere. That's not been the message here. And I think the other unfortunate thing that Waymo also and Cruise, they never, I don't, to what extent did they go to the community, the people who really need a ride? Because it's trivial for them. Little algorithm, boom, the car goes there, takes you at a cost that really, when you get down to this thing, if they built the Origin vehicle, they got any kind of productivity out of these things, it's less than a latte. And yeah, but Waymo's out there trying to get access to San Francisco airport so that they can do tours. Come on.
DeRussa,
Anyway.
maybe we know you have to run, but before you do, tell us what your thoughts are about going forward, moving forward.
Yeah,
here.
we got to move forward.
What the future may look like with
I mean, I think it's worth noting, like I mentioned, right? Waymo does continue to operate. So I think that for Cruise, they're certainly at a moment of crisis, and they're it's going to be very difficult, I think, for them to come back from this. I don't know precisely. They haven't said precisely what measures they have taken, what sorts of things that they are doing differently. And like I said, similarly, the California DMV has not said what Cruise needs to do to be operational again. So, I think it's probably very difficult to be in Mary Barra's shoes right now, given that GM has spent, like I said, several $1 billion on Cruise over the last several years. So it's hard, but we will see, how this technology moves forward. And like you mentioned, right, if Waymo can prove to be successful in San Francisco, can prove to be successful in Phoenix, can catch on, then perhaps this can actually work, on a mass scale. But I think for now it's too soon to tell. But Cruise is certainly, has a long way to go.
Bruce, thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Let's hope that we'll have you back, and we need whatever it's still worth doing.
Alan, the Dispatcher publisher Michael Senna, in his updated newsletter, writes, "It's not the end for Cruise, but it should be the end for GM's Skunk Works project with Cruise and the start of a more serious approach toward driverless vehicles by the automobile industry and investors." Michael writes, "My recommendation to GM and Honda: do not do a Ford and VW and close down Cruise as they close down Argo AI." He addresses GM CEO Mary Barra, saying she and her GM colleagues should have been thinking about how Cruise's systems and service operation innovations could make GM something much more than what it is today. He says Cruise needs to be inside a company that knows what to do with it. If it's not GM, then please hand it over to a company that will know what to do with it. The first item on the agenda for that company, he says, should be to get Kyle Vogt back in the CEO saddle.
Yeah, it's nice that Michael wrote that. Both Waymo and Cruise, extremely greater than 50-80%, whatever, was safety. And it's understood that safety is incredibly important. But safety is a necessary condition. It's not something that really one should strive to optimize against everything else. Okay, because if it's safety that we want, we just stay home. Okay, and so yes, safety is extraordinary. If it's unsafe, forget about it. Okay. And as we're seeing here, the implication here is that it's unsafe. And unsafe here where it provides essentially no other value that anybody can see or perceive in San Francisco, or at least that's what the press seems to say. I mean, they might as well pull it in, forget about it. At some point, I think what motivates both Michael and myself is the opportunity for mobility and really efficient, affordable, high quality mobility, as opposed to the mobility system that we've all ended up getting to and being convinced that we have to have is our own car to drive ourselves to where we want to go and have it wait around for us so that we can be sure to get home. You know, that's the value proposition. Plus, I can say, hey, Fred, look at the car I have. And okay, but really it's to be able to do that. And to do that, I don't know, you put some smoke and mirrors on it, and it looks really somewhat affordable. I mean, we've created a way that we fuel it by just putting a credit card into a machine. And here in New Jersey, we don't even pump our own. I mean, it like goes in there for free with no physical effort. We only get our insurance bills twice a year or something. So it looks like that doesn't cost anything. And then, I mean, the financing stuff, and you like put peanuts down and you got it. And then you read the small print. Oh my goodness. Oh. And so it's all been made to look like it's essentially free, which is great. And in California, they call them freeways. It's not because you can just go. Of course you can, but they're free. I mean, enormously great madmen have gone in there and just made us love it. But then if you look at it, for the folks who actually read the fine print, who actually maybe pay attention, who don't have a Fred that they care to show, hey, look at this, and are really just trying to go to the grocery store, to go visit a friend or whatever, the mobility system that we have available to them, if they don't have good legs and it's not close, it might be very inexpensive, but the quality of service is what? And it's not that these systems haven't wanted to have higher quality of service and be able to go everywhere anymore on demand. It's because the tools that they have to do that aren't there for them to do it. And the beauty about what Waymo and Cruise have been trying to do, and others, is to put some new tools out there that actually can deliver on demand, high quality mobility 24/7. Now, of course, now they say they have to do it 365.25. Why, guys and gals? Why not just 350? Apparently today, Waymo has a meeting in Buffalo because they want to go test in Buffalo. What do you have to test in Buffalo? You can do Buffalo. If you've done San Francisco, you can do Buffalo. Maybe you'll have to ask them to put a little paint on the road so that you can see where the lanes are. Might have to, move some signs around or something like that, or put some new signs around, but they can do Buffalo. If they're doing San Francisco, they can do Buffalo trivially.
They just don't have to be doing it when there's a foot of snow or ice on the roadway. That's all.
Just think that happens 20 days, 30 days a year. You got 330. That's less than 10%. You can do the 90% problem for Buffalo. Not just the 80% problem, not just the 50% problem. You can do the 90% problem. Why are you so focused on saying I've got to do it in snow? Go there and tell the people, look, we're really good. We can give you affordable, high quality mobility 24/7. Okay. The only thing that we can't do is like when the mayor, I'm sure the mayor, the governor here in New Jersey, I mean, we have a couple, inches of snow. Oh, please, everybody stay home. Just stay home. We're sorry we can't do everything for you. Okay? And in fact, you probably shouldn't go out when there's a bunch of snow until they've had a chance to shovel it. You shouldn't drive in Atlanta when there's a sheet of ice on the roads. This technology isn't being developed to solve the sheet of ice problem on the roads of Atlanta. If it is, they should quit now, because they're not going to be able to do it. Not anytime soon.
What we need for that is the boring company and go underground, but that's another story.
Well, sure. Then what do you do with the stuff that you take from underground? And who the heck wants to do? I mean, no, I'm not going to go. But it is. So I think they need to change their message. I think they need to go in there and say, we're really trying to improve the quality of life to people in San Francisco and in Buffalo and in Trenton and in Princeton and in places like that need mobility and can benefit from mobility when we can do it well. And okay, sorry, we can't do it all the time. Anybody who tries to do everything for everybody fails. Nobody's
This kind
ever been able to do that.
reminds me of this new book that's going to be coming out in January. When you're wrapping up with Michael Sena, it's called The Real Case for Driverless Mobility, and scheduled for release, I saw on the website from Elsevier on January 1st.
Yeah, hey, we're gonna have a party, I guess. Whatever. Michael and I are working on the galleys or something, whatever, and that's gonna, yes, and that's what we bring out in the book, and that's what we've been saying. That's what we've been saying, and these systems give people rides. That's what they can be good at in reasonable weather. Okay. And so let's do it. And it probably you could even do it in Duluth. Is there? I don't know. But certainly you can do it in Buffalo. And I can't wait to hear from Steve Still as to, what Waymo is saying in Buffalo today as to what we're coming in here, we're going to have our LiDARs work in snow, and we're going to solve your snow problem. I hope not. I hope not. Because guess what you don't know in snow? I can't imagine. Look at all the things we don't know when there's no snow. They tripped up crews. I don't know. Cut it out. Maybe the investment.
We'll have more from Steve and the situation in Buffalo in an upcoming podcast, we hope.
Yeah, we're going to get Steve to chat with us. Yeah, Steve wants them there for the same reason we want them in Trenton, to provide mobility for people. I think we said on this podcast, when Cruise went to San Francisco and first said they were operating at night, we applauded them when others were saying, well, you're not good enough to operate when there's a lot of traffic around and pedestrian. Well, maybe they weren't. but geez, they were good enough to operate to be able to take the drunks home. And probably the bars and restaurants should have been applauding them and whatever, because they got more revenue. That's not necessarily the kind of thing one wants to do, but of course, then you avoid the associated problems of having people who've had too much to drink or have had too much fun when they're out driving home and who knows what. And we forgot to ask, has San Francisco ever arrested the person who hit this woman and ran? Did that person have to resign his or her job? I don't know. It's ironic. It's just unfortunate. And I feel so bad for Kyle and Dan, and it's a shame because I think that they're two good guys really trying to do this right. At least Cruise was building a vehicle that was meant to just give people rides. Or Cruise, GM was building it for Cruise that was focused on rides. The message that ended up being reflected by the media was not, hey, this is really improving the quality of lives of people. People to be able to get to a job, allowing people who live in low-income housing or affordable housing to transform that affordable housing to affordable living because they had affordable, high-quality mobility. Didn't hear those kinds of messages, but whatever.
For those who haven't seen the last couple of podcast special editions, Alan, you traveled to Texas and Starbase and Boca Chica and, and with a group of students for the second launch of Starship.
Yep. I had the great fortune of taking, Elizabeth and I had the great fortune of taking 9 of my students down to South Padre Island, which is across the inlet from Boca Chica, and it was a mad scramble to do it because, of course, we didn't know a date, so that we couldn't really make plane reservations or hotel reservations because otherwise, we're left holding the bag. And but at the last minute, when they finally got FAA approval, we, along with who knows how many other thousands, scrambled to get the last seats into any airport near Brownsville. We got them, and at least 9 of my students decided that I wasn't completely crazy, and they would sort of tag along, wondering what the hell's all this about. Although I tried to make sure that they understood what it was about, and they were all willing, and so on and so forth. And it was so great. I mean, it just worked out so perfectly because the launch was delayed by a day. We had gone down Thursday night, made sure they at least went to most of their classes on Thursday before we had to go to Newark Airport, and went down and they delayed the launch from Friday to Saturday, but we had decided, since it's weekend, we might as well stay on the beach for a Saturday. So we planned our return to be Saturday night. But then they delayed the launch for a day, which allowed us to say, my goodness, if Highway 4, the road to Boca Chica, is open, we're going to go over there and just go see the manufacturing facility, Massey's, the test facility, and the launch tower. And so I got them out of bed, probably the earliest they've been up all semester, at about I don't know, we got about 5:30, and I think by 6:30 we were on the road, because you got to go up and around instead of just, we're 5 miles away here, but there's an inlet that you have to go up and around. And the road is open, and we go down, and we show up at the launch site like it's from here. It's less than a football field length away. They're just beginning to load the Starship on top of Booster 9. And we just sat there like, wow, just watching the assembly process. from, and it was just, and their eyes went boom. So Elizabeth and I think we've changed the lives of at least 9 Princeton students on this thing. I don't know what they'll end up doing.
And then the launch the next day.
And then the launch the next day, we got up a little bit even earlier because we were staying in a hotel that was a little, probably a mile and a quarter from the viewing site, and walked down the beach. We had gone to Walmart and bought beach chairs, $8.88 a piece, $8.88 a piece. So we could stake out our position on the dune. So we had to get there before sunrise. And heck, we weren't the first ones there, but we did have a great viewing spot. And it was, it's just marvelous. First time they lit all 33 engines, and the thing was basically right on time. I mean, how do you do that? And short, they, in the flip maneuver, a couple engines crapped out, and who knows what happened. And with Starship probably wouldn't have been able to re-enter because they lost a lot of thermal tiles on the ascent. And they've things they have to fix, they have to do better. But the amount that they learned was, man, they got some real quality Princeton education by both SpaceX and the kids. I mean,
they learned a lot between the 2 launches, obviously, and now they'll learn even more.
Yeah, no, I mean, you just have to take your hat off to them. I mean, you have to be so good to be able to do that. Whatever, everything has to work well. I mean, but if you look at it, there are a lot of things that we don't know in San Francisco or in Trenton or in Buffalo that we end up having to learn. And probably the safe driving problem is harder than put a Starship in orbit, because that's be able to efficiently and effectively and inexpensively and affordably and have people ride around. You have to deal with people, and people are just too different, too variable to look at things from different perspectives. And look at what crews ran into before this. I mean, being attacked by people with hammers and people thinking they're cute by putting a cone in front of them. I mean, there's nobody was putting a cone in front of Starship 2 on Saturday morning. Okay. So, whatever.
Exciting times.
Exciting times, though, but it is exciting times for both things.
We want to thank Sarusa Faravar from Forbes for spending time with us today. You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, wherever you turn to for podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon, Apple, Google. We're there. You can get smart speakers to play us too. My Tech Reports are at Techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alan Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and please continue to stay safe.
Yep.